What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to the Bayonetta Retrospective. In this video, I'm going to be looking back at Bayonetta 2's history, and with a lot of research and quoting, I'm going to get all of the details and statements down to the T. So let's start this, shall we? So Bayonetta 2's development started shortly after the release of Bayonetta 1. Hideki Kamiya discussed with Yasuki Hashimoto ideas for sequels and spin-off games from the title. Despite these discussions, Kamiya believed they would never release a sequel. However, Kamiya's Twitter account later stated that he might release the sequel if Bayonetta 1 sold well. Later on, Bayonetta 2 was revealed during the Nintendo Direct on September 13th, 2012. The game's Wii U exclusive was met with complaints by fans of the original game. Platinum Games producer Atsushi Inaba responded that Bayonetta 2 would not exist if Nintendo had not partnered with a developer to make the game. Work on the game was based on feedback the staff received from the original Bayonetta to bring various improvements. Nintendo was not involved in the making of the game, other than as an observer, and the staff were pleased with their experience. One of the improvements made by the staff was the movements of enemies. In the first game, there was a single enemy movement when Bayonetta struck them, while in Bayonetta 2, they have different animations depending on the direction of Bayonetta's attack. The architecture for the main city environment, Noaton, was based on cities in Belgium and Italy, such as Bruges, Brussels, Florence, and Venice. In a Wii U Direct from January 2013, Platinum Games showed a development trailer for the game. They confirmed game development was going smoothly, but did not go into many gameplay details. A playable demo of the game was featured at Nintendo's booth during E3 2013. Following the reveal of the game's first gameplay trailer, a multiplayer mode was also announced, along with the option of a touch-based control scheme and the confirmation that the game will support off-TV play. In the Nintendo Direct from February 2014, another trailer for the game was released, showing off the new environment players can expect, as well as some of the basic story elements of the game. Further gameplay was also released, revealing the use of Japanese voice actors for the Japanese release, new weapons for Bayonetta to use, as well as the use of the new youth character as being playable. As of the Bayonetta 2 Direct, the game was released on September 20th, 2014 in Japan and in October 2014. For the rest of the world, at E3 2014, it was announced the game would include a port of the original Bayonetta, which would include exclusive Nintendo costumes, dual audio voice tracks, and touch controls. The original game would be a digital download via the Nintendo eShop on a separate disc for retailers. Bayonetta 2 received critical acclaim. It received an accumulative score of 91 out of 100 on Metacritic based on 80 reviews. The Japanese magazine Famitsu's 4 reviewers exclusively awarded the game a score of 38 out of 40, as if Famitsu's reviews actually matter. Edge awarded Bayonetta 2 a score of 10 out of 10. The magazine's reviewer described it as a riotous, spectacular work of the highest order of camp, and praised the game for the extent of its customizability and for refining problematic elements from the first Bayonetta, with tighter pacing and a removal of sudden mid-cinematic insta-fail QTEs. The reviewer concluded, "This is a game that you can complete in 10 hours, but play and replay forever. It is a master class in combat design, in video game variety, in the balance between accessibility and depth." GameSpot reviewer Mark Walton said the game will be remembered as an absolute classic and awarded it a perfect 10 out of 10. Chris Carter from Destructoid also rated it a 10 out of 10, where he declared it as one of the finest action games of all time, alongside Devil May Cry 3. Several reviews agreed that the game was an improvement on its predecessor, despite acknowledgement that its combat mechanics were largely unchanged. Eurogamer's Martin Robinson concluded Bayonetta 2's biggest disappointment may be that it's an iterative sequel, but it's not such a problem when it's iterating on genius. IGN's Jose Otero commented that its art direction and pacing make Bayonetta 1 look poor by comparison, while game trailers called it sharpened to the nearest flawless degree compared to his predecessor, praising the variety in addition to the style mixed with the gameplay, where the game thrives on throwing players into complete madness and letting them conquer it. Chris Carter at Destructoid stated, 4 years later, and Platinum hasn't lost its edge with Bayonetta 2. It's just as stylish and as fun as ever. Of the game's new features, the cooperative online tag climax mode was welcomed by GameSpot Mark Walton, and by Eurogamer's Martin Robinson, who praised it for requiring the player to gain a deep understanding of the combo scoring system. However, IGN's Hetero commented that the fun it provided was restricted to short bursts, and Polygon's Arthur Gies found the mode's cooperative mechanics at odds odds with its competitive focus on scoring. Otero and Robinson both criticized the game's optional touchscreen-based control system, intended to improve the accessibility of new players, as very limited in comparison to the game's main control scheme. As for sales, in Japan, Bayonetta 2 sold approximately 39,000 units in its first week of release. Much fewer than were sold of the original Bayonetta in its debut week. After its third week of release, Bayonetta 2 had sold approximately 50,000 units in Japan. The title was the 7th best-selling game in the UK in its first week of release, but was absent from the top 40 bestseller list in its second week. In May 2016, VG Charts announced that Bayonetta 2 had sold over 1 million copies since its release. And in other history, Bayonetta appears as a playable fighter via downloadable content in the 2014 Nintendo fighting games Super Smash Bros. For the 3DS and Wii U, after being one of the most requested characters by fans to be in the game. She was revealed on December 15, 2015 during the Super Smash Bros. Final video presentation, and was made available alongside a stage based on the Umbra clock tower from Bayonetta 1 on February 3, 2016. She also included alternative costumes between Bayonetta 1 and 2. As for the music of Bayonetta 2, it was composed by a group of members led by Masami Yuta, many of whom returned after being featured on the soundtrack for the first game. Yuta states that he finds the score for Bayonetta 2 much livelier than the one for Bayonetta, and explains they attempted to create new elements in the music by switching out certain instruments for others. A key difference in the soundtrack between the games is the inclusion of dynamic music for boss fights based on the progression of Bayonetta 2. Yuta states that the music is broken up into phases and are set off by triggers based on animations and cues in the scenes, which allow for swells in the music to match up the action on screen, just like some of the music cues you might have heard in Metal Gear Rising. A similar approach was done for the stage tracks as well, with as many as 10 shorter loops mixed together that transition based on the player's progression through the stage. Compared to the original Bayonetta's 150 tracks, Bayonetta 2 has 183 tracks with higher audio quality. Like the original game, Bayonetta 2 features a cover of an old song but remixed into the signature style of the game's Moon River by Andy Williams. Both the remixed versions of the original are included in the game. Much like how Fly Me to the Moon was used as the main theme song for Bayonetta, the game's battle theme, Tomorrow Is Mine, was one of the first pieces of music revealed in its entirety during the promotion of the game. Both of these songs were performed by Keely Bumford. Bumford. Also, like the original game, Bayonetta 2 received a 5-disc original soundtrack, which was released in Japan on October 29, 2014. In conclusion, Bayonetta 2 is an action-adventure hack-and-slash video game developed by Platinum Games and published by Nintendo for the Wii U and the Nintendo Switch. It is the sequel to the 2009 game Bayonetta, and was directed by Yusuke Hashimoto and produced by Atsushi Inaba and Nintendo's Hitachi Yamagami, under supervision by series creator Hideki Kamiya. Bayonetta 2 was announced in the Nintendo Direct presentation on September 13, 2012. Unlike the Sega-published Bayonetta, which was a multi-platform release for Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3, a publishing deal with Nintendo meant that Bayonetta 2 released as a platform exclusive for the Wii U. Bayonetta 2 was released in September 2014 in Japan and October 2014 for the rest of the world. The special and first print edition of the game included a Wii U port of the original Bayonetta as a separate disc inside the case. The game received critical acclaim from many reviewers, praising the combat system and overall improvement from the first game. And finally, the Nintendo Switch ports of both games and a sequel, Bayonetta 3, were announced on December 7, 2017 during the Game Awards 2017, and Bayonetta 1 and 2 ports to the Nintendo Switch on February 16, 2018. Well guys, I hope you enjoyed this retrospective look at the history of Bayonetta 2, and if you like these type of videos, let me know, leave a like and subscribe. See you guys in the next video. Later.
You and I've been around with you in my dust, then bang bang down. so?